Hello and welcome to my Unity 2D tutorial. Today I'm going to be doing enemies or enemy AI. I'm going to start off by right clicking in the hierarchy and creating a 2D sprite, and I'm going to make it a square. I'm going to move it slightly away from the player. I'm going to rename it enemy, and I'm going to color it red to further distinguish it from the player. I'm then going to create an enemy AI script, and then I'm going to open the script. I'm then going to create 4 variables. I want a public game object, and it's going to be for the player. I then want a public float for the enemy speed or enemy movement speed, whatever you want to call it. I'm also going to make a public float for the enemy max follow, which will be the enemy's maximum follow range for the player. I'm then going to make a private float called distance, which we will be using for calculations later on. I'm going to come inside the update function here, and I'm going to make distance equal to the vector2 distance, and then put some brackets, and it's going to be transform dot position, then a comma, and player dot transform dot position. So now distance will be equal to the difference between the enemy's transform, because this is where the script will be, so that's this current transform, and the player's transform. And then under this I'm going to make put vector 2 direction equal to the player dot transform dot position and minus the transform dot position. Oh, if I could type position. Under this, I then want to put direction dot normalize. Direction dot normalize. Underneath this, I then also want to put float angle equals mathf, which is just gets a math function, and we want the atan2 function, and we want it to be direction dot y and direction dot x. We then want to times this by another math function, but this time we want to do math f.rad 2 degrees, which this basically will get an angle for like the player looking around, and it uses the atom function, which is like a difference between two points. It's a thing to do with angles, and the two things we put into it is direction y, direction x, which we've set up here using the transforms, and then it times it by mass rad 2 degrees, so we can get a proper angle basically. Under all that, we want to make an if statement. In this if statement, we want to put that if the distance is that if distance is less than enemy max follow, and then we want to put transform dot position equals vector 2 dot move towards this dot transform dot position layer dot transform dot position and enemy speed times time dot delta time. So it's quite long, but basically all it will do is basically as soon as the distance between the enemy and the player is below the max follow range, it will then start making the enemy position slowly move towards the player, and then it times it by the enemy speed, so we can set how fast the enemy can do this, and also times it by time delta time, so it wouldn't be affected by frame rates. We then want to make it so the transform dot rotation is equal to Rotainian dot u, and then we want to put this, and we want to do vector 3 this time dot forward, and then we want it to times it by angle. So all this is just changing the way the enemy will rotate, and just what we do now is we can save that. What we can do now is save that, and we can go back to Unity, and we want to go to the enemy, and we want to add a collider. We want to make it a box collider 2D. Oh. And we want to set it to is trigger. Now if we head back to the script, what we want to do now is make two more variables. One of those is going to be a public float for bullet damage, and the other one is going to be a public float for enemy hell. Now what we want to do is we want to go in the update function, and we want to make an if statement. We want to put if enemy health is equal to 0, or sorry, equals. We want it to be if it's the same as, we don't want to set it to 0. And then inside the if statement we will make it destroy, and brackets, this dot game object. So when the enemy health variable, which we've set up here, will hit 0, then we can destroy this game object, which will be the enemy. Now what we can do, we can make a separate onTriggerEnter function, onTriggerEnter 2D, and inside this function we can make an if statement. This if statement will be if collision dot compare tag, and we want that tag to be bullet. Oh, we need to add another bracket in there to fix that. And then, so if the compare tag is bullet, which what this does is it will check the collisions, click the object which collided with the enemy's tag, and if it is bullet, it will do whatever's in this if statement. Which what we want to do is make it so the enemy health is minus equal 1, or minus equal bullet damage. And then under that we want it to make it destroy the collision dot game object. So now what this does is, as soon as the bullet will hit the enemy, which is what it checks here, and it checks that it is actually the bullet that's hit the enemy, it then will minus health off the enemy compared to the bullet damage. So the bullet damage to be whatever we will set it in the Unity itself, and once it does that, it will immediately destroy the bullet as well. So it will minus the health first and then destroy the bullet. Make sure you have it in this order, otherwise it will not do the it will not minus the bullet damage, because it will destroy the object first. So make sure it does the enemy health minus bullet damage first, and then does the bullet collision, destroy collision. Okay, now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back to Unity. And first of all, we're going to go to the enemy, and what we want to do is we want to set the enemy speed. So I'll put it as 5. Max follow range, we'll make that like 7. Bullet damage will be 1. Enemy health, we'll make it 3. So now what we can do is, if we also make sure our bullet has the tag of bullet, so if yours doesn't, please, which I did a different tutorial for this, but if you go, you can go add tag, you can click the plus here, and then you can just type in here, you can type bullet, exactly how you did in the script, and then click save. Then you can go to the bullet object and you can just add it here. It should appear here. Like you see, I've got bullet power up and wall here. You should have bullet in there as well as the most recent one. So just click it and it should have a tick next to it when you go back in here. Cool. Now that's done, if you click play, you should be able to shoot the enemy. The only problem is I haven't set the player object. So what we need to do now is go over here, click and drag on the player into the player's game objects thing here, and now we've set the player. So now if we hit play, we can destroy the enemy. Obviously the enemy's a bit too fast when he moves towards us, so we can change the speed. So if we set it to 2, so he moves a bit slower, so it's a bit more obvious. Now you see the enemy will slowly move towards us. Now I picked up the speed power up. We can sort of circle around him, avoid this enemy, and then what we do if we shoot him, it'll destroy the enemy, and as soon as our bullets hit him, it also destroys us too. That's the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching.